Remember the days when going out to eat was a special occasion? The food was delicious, the service was impeccable, and the whole experience just felt magical. But lately, something's changed. It seems like every time you go to a restaurant, you leave feeling disappointed, frustrated, and wondering if it's even worth it anymore. Well, you're not alone. Dining out just isn't what it used to be. The quality of food has gone downhill, with overcooked dishes and sloppy presentation becoming the norm. And even when the food is decent, the prices have skyrocketed. I mean, $125 for 2 steak dinners that taste like cafeteria food? Come on. But it's not just about the food. The overall experience has taken a nosedive too. Slow service, disorganized staff, incorrect orders. Sound familiar? It's like restaurants have forgotten what hospitality is all about. So what happened to the joy of dining out?
It's a popular spot for a burger, fries, and more. But this morning, rising prices at Five Guys, making some customers lose their appetites.
This morning in the city of Lecce, Italy, a juicy culinary conflict is heating up. Food writer Geraldine de Ruyter had dinner at the 1 Michelin-starred restaurant Bros, and her review went viral.
Let's face it, the quality of food at restaurants has taken a serious hit. Reddit is filled with horror stories of overcooked steaks that cost an arm and a leg, resembling something you'd find in a school cafeteria rather than a nice restaurant. It's no wonder people are starting to question whether eating out is even worth the expense anymore. Many are saying they could whip up a better meal at home for a fraction of the price. But it's not just the food that's leaving a bad taste in our mouths. The service at restaurants has also gone downhill. Slow, disorganized staff who can't seem to get an order right. Sound familiar? It's like playing a game of restaurant roulette every time you go out to eat. And don't even get me started on the wait times. You might as well pack a snack and bring a good book because you could be in for a long night. So what's behind this decline in quality and service? According to the National Restaurant Association, there were 400,000 fewer people working in hospitality in early 2023 compared to pre-pandemic times. That's a huge hit to an industry that was already struggling with staffing issues. And with an annual turnover rate of 74%, the highest of any industry in America, it's no wonder restaurants are having a hard time keeping up with demand. But even before the pandemic, the restaurant industry was facing some serious challenges. Labor shortages have been a problem for years. And with the cost of ingredients and rent constantly on the rise, many restaurants have had to cut corners just to stay afloat. That often means smaller portions, lower quality ingredients, and extra charges for things that used to be included. So where does that leave us as diners? Feeling pretty frustrated? That's where. We're paying more for a subpar experience, and it's hard not to feel like we're getting ripped off. Take those $125 steak dinners, for example. Those steak dinners are a perfect example of the rising costs in the restaurant industry. $125 for a couple of thin, overcooked steaks and a few beers? That's highway robbery. And it's not just anecdotal evidence. The numbers don't lie. Prices at restaurants have been climbing steadily for years, while the perceived value has been on a downward spiral. So what's behind this troubling trend? Restaurants are facing some serious financial pressures these days. Labor costs are through the roof with minimum wage hikes and a tight job market driving up expenses. Food prices are also on the rise, thanks to supply chain disruptions and inflation. And don't forget about all the other operational costs like rent, utilities, and insurance. All of these factors are squeezing restaurant profit margins tighter than a pair of skinny jeans. Restaurants used to aim for a 10% profit margin, but these days, many are lucky to break even. So what do? They pass the costs on to the consumer. But here's the thing, diners are catching on. They're not willing to pay top dollar for subpar food and lackluster service. They're voting with their wallets and taking their business elsewhere. As costs continue to rise, restaurants are forced to cut corners. They use cheaper ingredients, shrink portion sizes, and skimp on service. But in doing so, they're driving away the very customers they need to stay afloat. It's a lose-lose situation, and it's not just affecting the high-end establishments. Even fast food joints and chain restaurants are feeling the pinch. Have you noticed how the value meals aren't quite as valuable anymore? Or how the dollar menu is now the dollar and change menu? It's all part of the same troubling trend. But amidst all this doom and gloom, there are some glimmers of hope on the horizon. Some intrepid restaurateurs are thinking outside the box and experimenting with new business models and innovative approaches to dining out. From counter service to open book management, these pioneers are shaking things up and giving diners a reason to come back for seconds. But it's not all doom and gloom for the restaurant industry. Some savvy restaurateurs are adapting to the changing times by innovating with new business models. Take Crudo e Nudo in Los Angeles, for example. They've ditched the traditional waiter service and instead have customers order at the counter. And get this, all 12 employees are cross-trained to perform various tasks, which means they can maintain a small, efficient staff. The result? A profit margin of 15% to 20%, which is way higher than the industry average of 3% to 5%. Or how about Locadoro in Austin? They've said goodbye to tipping and hello to a 20% service fee, which helps them pay their staff a living wage and even cover healthcare premiums. And despite fears that customers would be put off by the change, business has remained steady. quality. But it's not just individual restaurants that are changing things up. Shopping malls are getting in on the action too, replacing traditional food courts with more varied and local dining options. The Beverly Center in Los Angeles has even transformed its food court into a fine dining hub featuring chef-driven sit-down restaurants. And let's not forget about the rise of food trucks and delivery services. During the pandemic, food trucks became a popular option for socially distanced to-go meals. And delivery services like DoorDash and Grubhub saw a whopping 162% increase in monthly sales in 2020. While growth has slowed, the demand for these alternative dining options remains high. So while the traditional dining experience may be in a bit of a slump, it's clear that the restaurant industry is far from dead. With innovative business models, new dining experiences, and alternative options like food trucks and delivery, there's still plenty to look forward to in the world of eating out. Who knows, maybe the future of dining will be even better than what we remember from the past. So, is the traditional dining experience we all remember coming back? Well, it's hard to say for sure. We've talked about how quality has gone downhill, service has become spotty, and prices have skyrocketed. It's understandable to feel a bit disillusioned with the whole restaurant scene these days. But here's the thing, while the industry is definitely evolving, that doesn't mean all hope is lost. Yes, some of our favorite spots from the past may never be quite the same, but as we've seen, there are plenty of innovative restaurateurs out there who are finding new ways to deliver great food and memorable experiences. So maybe the question isn't whether the traditional dining experience is coming back, but rather how it's being reinvented for the modern age. With a little creativity and a lot of hard work, there's no reason why we can't still enjoy a fantastic meal out on the town. It might look a bit different than what we're used to, but hey, change can be a good thing, right? Speaking of change, if you're curious about how the labor market is impacted by low wages, check out our video on the hidden costs of low-paying jobs. It's a fascinating look at if the trajectory of low pay continues today, will it even be worth it to continue working? Because let's face it, everything around us is costing more and it doesn't look like prices will be going down soon anytime too.